Alpha King invited his rejected Barren mate to humiliate her. But she arrived with his pups. The great hall fell silent as I entered. Every wolf in the kingdom turned to stare at me, the Luna their Alpha King had cast aside 6 years ago. He'd called me barren, broken, unworthy of the throne. He'd exiled me to die alone in the rogue lands. I'd received his invitation last week, a gilded mockery, summoning me to witness the presentation of his heir. His new queen, Victoria, glowed beside him in crimson silk, cradling an infant, triumph in every line of her smug smile. But the gasps that rippled through the crowd weren't for my humiliation. They were for the 4 identical boys who entered before me. 5 years old, moving in perfect synchronization, dressed in deep emerald green with silver wolf clasps at their throats. Their faces were miniature echoes of the king himself, and their eyes, goddess, their eyes. 4 pairs of piercing golden amber, the unmistakable royal bloodline of House Miller. Alpha King Michael dropped his goblet. Red wine spilled across marble like blood. Alpha Dominic Cross of Iron Ridge stood at my side, his presence a clear political statement. I was protected. The Barren Luna had returned, and I had brought the true heirs. If you're drawn to stories of justice, redemption, and a mother's fierce love, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button now because this is just the beginning. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Chapter 1. The Invitation. The envelope was thick, heavy, cream-colored cardstock that smelled faintly of cedar and frost, the scent of the Silverstone Citadel. It felt like a stone in my hand, a weight from a life I had clawed my way out of 6 years ago. It wasn't addressed to Alpha Cynthia, a title I had earned in the harsh rogue lands. It wasn't even addressed to Ms. Jones, the name I used in the small human town near my territory. It was addressed to the barren reject. My knuckles went white. Even without opening it, I knew who it was from. Only one person was so cruel, so arrogant as to send a letter across a continent just to land a blow. Mama? My posture softened instantly. I dropped the letter on the rustic wooden table of my cabin as if it were burning and turned. Liam, my eldest by 3 minutes, stood in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. At only 5 years old, he was already tall for his age, with a shock of unruly dark brown hair and a jawline that was a miniature echo of him. "I'm here, baby," I murmured, brushing his hair back. "Go back to bed. It's not morning yet." "Ethan kicked me again," he grumbled, but his eyes were fixed on the letter. "What's that?" "Nothing, Liam, just junk." He didn't look convinced. His eyes, those impossible golden amber eyes, narrowed. The unmistakable damning eyes of the Miller royal bloodline. "It smells bad," he said, wrinkling his nose. "It smells like him." My blood chilled. My sons had never met Michael. I had never even told them his name. But the blood knew. The magic that bound them, the alpha bond that was unheard of in 1,000 years, knew its origin. I tucked Liam back into the small room he shared with his 3 brothers, Ethan, Noah, and Owen, and returned to the kitchen. My hand trembled as I broke the golden wax seal embossed with the wolf and crown of the Miller kingdom. "You are hereby commanded by royal decree to attend the naming ceremony of His Royal Highness Prince Alexander Miller, firstborn son and true heir to the throne, born of His Majesty Alpha King Michael Miller and Her Majesty Queen Victoria Miller. Your presence is requested to bear witness to the glorious continuation of the royal line, a blessing the moon goddess bestows only upon the worthy." It was a command, a summons, but the line at the bottom, scrolled in Michael's sharp, aggressive handwriting, was the real message. Come and see what a real family looks like, Cynthia. See the son a true queen gave me and reflect on your own failure. I sank into a chair, the memory hitting me like a physical blow, as fresh and raw as the day it happened. 6 years ago. The Great Hall. I was 20 years old, terrified, and so in love I felt I might burst. The moon goddess had blessed me, a low-born daughter of the small river bend pack, as the true mate to the new alpha king, Michael Miller. He had been so charming, so powerful, but the charm had faded after the mating ceremony. He was cold, distant. He needed an heir fast to solidify his rule, and after 6 months, I was still not pregnant. He had summoned me to the throne room. It was full. All the pack alphas were there. Lord Thomas Crane, Lady Margaret Ashford, her daughter Victoria. "Cynthia Jones," Michael's voice boomed, devoid of any warmth. "Dr. Harrison Blake," he called. The royal physician, a weasel of a man, stepped forward, holding a scroll. "My king," Dr. Blake began, not looking at me. I have completed the examination. The Luna, she is barren." The word barren echoed in the dead silence. It was a death sentence. A Luna's worth was in her womb, a faulty mate. "Lady Ashford," someone whispered, loud enough for all to hear. Victoria, standing beside her mother, looked at me with a cruel, satisfied smirk. I had grabbed Michael's arm. "No, Michael, no, it's a lie. I feel we are mates." He had looked at my hand on his arm with pure disgust, as if I were something unclean, and violently shook me off. "A barren mate is no mate," he declared, his voice freezing me to the core. "She is a curse from the goddess. I, Alpha King Michael Miller, reject you, Cynthia Jones, as my mate and my Luna." The bond didn't just break, it shattered. The pain was a living thing, a white-hot knife in my soul that ripped a scream from my lungs. I had collapsed, clutching my stomach as the court looked on. "Guards," Michael had commanded, "remove this failure from my sight. She is exiled. If she is ever seen in the Miller territories again, she is to be killed on sight." They had dragged me out, past the smirking face of Victoria Ashford, who was already sliding her hand into the crook of Michael's arm. What Michael didn't know, what I had barely known, was that my nausea that morning wasn't from nerves. The Barren diagnosis wasn't just a lie, it was a catastrophic one. I had been 6 weeks pregnant with his 4 alpha heirs, present day, the cabin. I stared at the invitation. "Come and see what a real family looks like." He wanted to mock me. He wanted to parade his new queen and his single paltry son in front of the barren reject to prove his rightness, to complete my humiliation. He had no idea what he was inviting into his home. For 6 years I had lived in hiding, protected by the small but fierce rogue pack I had built. The Moonstone Pack. I had trained. I had hunted. I had raised 4 of the most powerful alpha pups the world had ever seen, teaching them to shield their scent, to control their immense power, to be better men than their father. "A reflection of failure," I whispered, a dangerous cold smile spreading across my face. "Oh, Michael," I said to the empty room, "you want to see what the goddess bestows on the worthy?" I picked up the invitation. "You want to mock me?" I stood up and walked to the small bedroom. Liam, Ethan, Noah, and Owen were sleeping in a tangle of limbs, a miniature pile of alpha power. 4 identical faces, 4 mops of dark brown hair, 4 sets of royal golden amber eyes. "You want to see my failure?" I whispered, brushing a hand over Owen's head. "Fine. We'll attend your little party. Let's see who's mocking whom when the day is done." I couldn't walk into the Silverstone Citadel alone. Michael's arrogance was his weakness, but his kingdom's army was very real. I was an alpha, but I was one wolf against 1,000. I needed an ally. I left my sons in the care of my beta, a fierce woman named Rachel, and made the 2-day journey to the Iron Ridge territory. Its alpha was a man I hadn't seen in 6 years, a man who had also been in the throne room that day. Alpha Dominic Cross. Dominic was Michael's rival in all things, in territory, in wealth, and in ideology. Where Michael was a tyrant who ruled by fear, Dominic was a diplomat who led with respect. He had been the only one in the Great Hall that day whose face had shown not contempt, but pity and anger. I found him in his study. He looked older. The lines around his eyes were deeper, but his steady gray gaze was the same. "Cynthia," he breathed. Standing so fast, his chair toppled over. He didn't move to hug me. The protocols were too ingrained. "By the goddess! We all thought you were dead." "Not dead, Dominic, just busy," I said, my voice dry. I laid the invitation on his desk. He read it, and his handsome face contorted in disgust. "He is a monster to send this to you, even if he thought you were just a packless omega. This is beyond cruel. He wants to gloat." "He does," Dominic agreed. "Which is why I'm going to accept." Dominic stared at me. "Cynthia, you can't be serious. It's a trap. He'll kill you the moment you set foot on his land." "The exile is for Cynthia Jones, the rejected mate," I interrupted. "I am Alpha Cynthia of Moonstone. He commanded my presence. He won't kill me in his own throne room in front of every alpha in the Alliance. It would be a sign of weakness." "He'll still, Cynthia, what is the point? To let him hurt you again?" I took a deep breath. I had kept my secret for 6 years. Not even Rachel knew the full truth of my son's lineage. But I couldn't do this alone. He didn't just reject me, Dominic. He rejected his legacy. He called me Barren. I paused, and Dominic's eyes widened as he connected the dots. The timing, the 6-year absence. "No," he whispered. "I was pregnant when he exiled me." Dominic gripped the edge of his desk. "A pup. You have his pup." "Pups," I corrected, my voice flat. "Plural, 4 of them, boys, and they all have his eyes." Dominic staggered back and sat down hard. 4 quadruplets, Goddess Almighty, 4 alpha heirs. I nodded. "They are exceptionally strong. Their auras are already manifesting. It's getting harder to hide them." Dominic ran a hand through his hair. The political implications were staggering. A king who had rejected his true mate and his firstborn heirs, 4 of them, in favor of a chosen queen from an allied pack. It was a scandal that could tear the kingdom apart. "He called me Barren, Dominic," I said, my voice low and vibrating with contained fury. "He humiliated me, exiled me, and tried to erase me. He did it all for his new queen, Victoria, and the alliance with her mother, Lady Margaret Ashford. He made a political choice over his fated mate, and now he wants to rub his new single son in my face as proof that he was right." I leaned forward. "I am not going there for revenge. I am going there for justice. I am going to show the allied packs, his entire kingdom, exactly what he threw away. I am going to show them the true heirs." Dominic was silent for a full minute, his mind clearly racing. "He'll try to take them from you," he said finally. "Let him try," I snarled. "He can't claim them. Not officially. He already has a true heir, doesn't he? To acknowledge my sons would be to admit he was wrong, to admit he was tricked, to admit his entire marriage to Victoria is a political sham built on a lie. His pride will never allow it. So what is your plan? Dominic asked. You walk in, show them the boys, and walk out? I walk in, I corrected. I show them the boys, and I watch his world burn down around him. I watch him realize that the Barren reject holds the entire future of the Miller line in her hands, and then I walk out. Dominic looked at me, a new respect dawning in his eyes. The broken girl from the throne room was gone. In her place was a queen. This is the most dangerous game you could possibly play, Cynthia. I know. Michael will be enraged. Victoria will be murderous. Her mother, Lady Ashford, will see her entire family's political power threatened. They will try to kill you and the boys. Which is why, I said, meeting his gaze steadily, I am asking you to come with me as my ally, as an official envoy from the Iron Ridge Pack, escorting the Alpha of Moonstone. They won't dare attack me if I am under your protection, not on their holy day. Dominic stared at the invitation, then at me. He thought of Michael's tyrannical rule, the heavy taxes, the cruel punishments for minor infractions. This was a chance to introduce a check on Michael's power, a chance to see true justice done. He won't just be enraged, Dominic said slowly, a grim smile touching his lips. He will be ruined, and I, for one, would very much like to be there to see it. He stood up and offered his hand. Alpha Cynthia, it would be my honor to escort you and your heirs to Silverstone. I took his hand, and for the first time in 6 years, I felt a flicker of something other than survival. I felt hope. Chapter 2. The Return. The Silverstone Citadel loomed over the valley, a fortress of dark gray stone that seemed to swallow the sunlight. I had forgotten how much it oppressed the landscape, how much it had oppressed me. I sat in a carriage, compliments of Alpha Dominic, my 4 sons sitting opposite me. They were dressed in fine matching tunics of deep emerald green, the color of Dominic's Iron Ridge Pack, but with a silver wolf clasp at their throats. My own pack's sigil. They looked like little princes. Liam, the warrior, was staring out the window, his jaw set. Ethan, the thinker, was quietly cataloging every guard we passed. Noah, the diplomat, was nervously smoothing his tunic, and Owen, the wild one, was bouncing his leg, his golden amber eyes bright with a dangerous mix of excitement and mischief. Remember the plan, I said softly, drawing all 4 gazes. Do not speak unless spoken to, Ethan recited. Do not flare our auras, Noah added. Don't shift, even if the mean lady is mean, Owen pouted. And most importantly, Liam finished, his voice a low growl that was startling in a 5-year-old, stay next to Mama, protect Mama. My heart ached with love. That's right. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, we stand together. We are a pack, understand? Yes, Mama, they chorused. The carriage rolled to a stop. Alpha Dominic, already waiting in the courtyard, opened the door. He was magnificent in his own dress uniform, projecting an aura of calm, unshakable power. They're in the great hall, he said softly, helping me down. The ceremony has already begun. Our timing is perfect. The guards at the main door, men from the Miller Royal Guard, moved to block us. The ceremony is sealed, Alpha Cross. No one else may enter. Dominic simply raised an eyebrow. I am escorting Alpha Cynthia of Moonstone. She is here at the personal and written command of your king. Will you be the one to tell him you defied his decree? The guards paled and stepped aside. The massive oak doors of the great hall swung open. The room was packed. Every alpha and beta of note was there, hundreds of them, all facing the raised dais. And on that dais, King Michael Miller stood tall and imposing, a golden circlet on his dark hair. He looked just as I remembered, achingly handsome, powerful, and cold as glacial ice. Beside him, in a chair that was clearly meant to be a throne, sat Queen Victoria. She was beautiful, dressed in crimson, and held a bundle of white blankets in her arms. She was beaming with smug, triumphant pride. Michael was in the middle of a speech, a celebration of true lineage, a celebration of strength. For too long this pack has waited for a worthy heir. The moon goddess has looked past mistakes, past failures. His gaze swept the room, and he seemed to be looking for someone. He was looking for me. He was about to use me as a prop. And she has blessed a true union. She has blessed my queen, Victoria, and she has given us a son. He raised his glass. My son, Prince Alexander, to the continuation of the line, free of weakness, free of... His voice trailed off. His eyes had found the entrance. The entire hall, following his gaze, turned. A collective audible gasp filled the room. I stood in the doorway, framed by the light. I was not the weeping broken girl they remembered. My hair was longer, wilder. I was dressed in the severe, practical black leather of a rogue alpha, stark and menacing against the opulent silks and velvets in the room. I was thinner, harder, and the look in my eyes was not fear, it was ice. Alpha Dominic Cross stood at my right, a clear political statement, and at my left, flanking me, 2 on each side, were my 4 sons. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria's voice, high and shrill, cut through the silence. "Guards, remove that thing. She is not welcome here." Michael didn't speak. He was staring at me, then down at the 4 small children who had moved to flank me. 4 small boys, 4 mops of identical dark brown hair, 4 small, defiant faces that were a perfect, miniature copy of his own. He hadn't seen their eyes yet. They were too far away. "You dare?" Michael's voice was a low, dangerous rumble. "After I commanded you." "You commanded me to attend," my voice rang out, clear and strong, cutting him off. It didn't waver. "You commanded me to come and bear witness. So I have." Victoria laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "You came, you pathetic creature. You actually came. Michael, darling, look. The Barren came to see the son she could never give you. She probably brought some village mutts to try and make you jealous." "Mutts!" I repeated the word quietly. I began to walk forward. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. Dominic followed, a silent, menacing shadow, and the 4 boys walked with me, their small boots making the only sound in the dead, silent hall. We walked up the central aisle, past the shocked faces of Lord Crane and Lady Ashford. We walked until we stood at the foot of the dais, directly below the king and queen. Now Michael could see. Now the entire front row could see. The boys, as one, lifted their chins. 4 pairs of piercing golden amber eyes met the king's. The royal bloodline of the Millers had 2 unique traits: the dark brown hair and the golden amber eyes. It was a genetic marker that had not been diluted in 1,000 years. Victoria's new baby, Prince Alexander, wrapped in his blankets, had his mother's pale blue eyes. Michael dropped his goblet. It crashed onto the marble, the red wine spilling like blood. He didn't look at me. He couldn't. He was staring at the 4 boys as if he had seen ghosts. His face, which had been arrogant and cruel, was now a mask of pure ashen shock. What? He choked out. What is this? I smiled. It was the coldest, most terrifying smile anyone in that room had ever seen. You invited your rejected Barren mate to mock her, Your Majesty, I said, my voice dripping with venomous politeness. So I came, and I brought my failure with me. I placed a hand on Liam's shoulder and another on Ethan's. Alpha King Michael Miller, I said, my voice rising to fill the hall. I present to you your firstborn sons, Liam, Ethan, Noah, and Owen. Liam, the boldest, stepped forward an inch. He looked up at the king, his expression not one of awe, but of judgment. Hello, father. The word father echoed like a gunshot. Victoria shrieked, a hand flying to her mouth. Michael staggered back a step as if he had been physically struck. The kingdom had just shattered. Chapter 3: The Reckoning. The great hall was so quiet you could hear the frantic pounding of Victoria's heart. She had scrambled to her feet, clutching her own pale-eyed son so tightly the baby began to wail, a thin, reedy sound that was instantly drowned by the suffocating silence. "Lies!" Victoria shrieked, her voice cracking. "It's a trick! She's a witch! She found some brats and enchanted them! They can't be!" Michael was frozen, his mind a roaring void. He was locked in a staring contest with 4 miniature versions of himself. The amber eyes, goddess, the eyes. They were his eyes. They were his father's eyes. They're impossible, he whispered. Are they? My voice was dangerously calm. 9 months, Michael, that's all it takes. You exiled me in the spring. They were born in the deep winter. You can count, can't you? But, Barren, he stammered, turning his head as if searching for an answer. Tell them, Dr. Blake, I said, my gaze finding the royal physician in the crowd. His face had gone the color of old parchment. Tell them how you examined me. Tell them how thorough you were. Tell them who paid you to lie. Dr. Blake's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. This is preposterous, Lady Margaret Ashford's voice cut through the tension. The royal physician wouldn't what? I interrupted, turning to face her. Wouldn't lie for what? Money? Political favor? A promise that your daughter would be queen? The implication hung in the air like poison. Lady Ashford's face went from red to white in seconds. Alpha Dominic stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Alpha King Michael, the law is clear. When bloodline markers are present and undisputed, patrimony is established. Do you dispute that these boys carry Miller blood? The question was a trap. Disputing it meant denying his own eyes and the eyes of 300 witnesses. Michael's voice cracked. I don't understand how... You understand perfectly, I said, my voice sharp as broken glass. You understand that you believed a lie because it was convenient. You understand that you rejected your fated mate because she wasn't politically useful. You understand that you chose ambition over the moon goddess's blessing. Sensing my distress, my 4 sons' auras began to flare. It was like a wave of heat and power that rippled through the hall. People gasped, some stumbled back. Even Dominic looked shocked. 5-year-olds shouldn't have this kind of control, this kind of strength. Shh, my loves, I said softly, placing my hands on Liam's and Ethan's heads. Save your strength. The auras receded instantly, obedient to my command. The message was clear to everyone watching. These weren't just royal heirs. They were exceptionally powerful. And they were loyal to me, not Michael. Guards! Victoria shrieked, her composure completely shattered. Arrest her! She's using dark magic! She's what? Lord Crane, an older alpha in the front row, interrupted. His face was grave. Showing us children with your husband's eyes? Children who clearly have been alive for 5, maybe 6 years? Children who were conceived during his marriage to her, not you? Lady Ashford tried to intercede. This is obviously some kind of trick. The only trick, Dominic said coldly, was the one played on Alpha Cynthia 6 years ago, Dr. Blake. He turned to the physician. You declared her barren. On what evidence? The physician was sweating, his face gray. All eyes were on him. I performed the standard tests, the lunar cycle reading, the blood work. Show us the records, Dominic demanded. They were lost in a fire. How convenient, I said softly. Records lost, a diagnosis with no evidence, a rejection based on a lie. I turned to the crowd. Who benefits from that lie? My gaze swept across Lady Ashford, Victoria, and Michael. Who gained a crown? Who gained an alliance? Who gained power? Murmurs spread through the hall. Alphas and betas who had witnessed my humiliation 6 years ago were now seeing the truth. Some looked ashamed, others looked angry at Michael for the deception, at the Ashfords for the conspiracy. Lord Crane spoke again. Alpha King Michael, these boys, you cannot deny them. The eyes don't lie. Other voices joined in. The bloodline is clear. 4 alpha heirs. The rightful princes. What kind of king rejects his own sons? Michael looked around wildly. His carefully constructed ceremony was in ruins. His legitimacy was questioned. His queen was hysterical. The ally he sold his soul for, the Ashford family, was exposed as conspirators, and standing before him was the mate he destroyed, whole and powerful and victorious. Cynthia, he began, and for the first time, there was something other than coldness in his voice, uncertainty, maybe even regret. This was the moment I had been planning for, dreaming of. Michael broken before me, the entire kingdom watching his fall. But as I looked at him, really looked at him, I realized something had shifted inside me. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his acknowledgement. I didn't even need his suffering. I needed my sons to be safe. I needed to be free. And standing here watching him unravel, I realized I already was. 6 years ago, I began, my voice carrying through the silent hall, you stood in this very room and told me I was worthless. You told me I had failed. You told me the moon goddess had cursed you with a faulty mate. I paused, looking at my sons, then back at Michael. You were wrong. About all of it. I wasn't barren. I wasn't broken. I wasn't a curse. I was carrying 4 of the most powerful alpha heirs this kingdom has ever seen. My voice strengthened. And when you threw me away, you didn't just lose a mate. You lost a family. You lost sons who will never call you father with love. You lost the respect of your people. You lost your destiny. Michael's face was ashen. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. I cut him off. You wanted a politically convenient queen more than you wanted your fated mate. You made that choice, and now you live with it. I placed my hands on my son's shoulders. I didn't come here for your throne. I didn't come here to reclaim a position in a kingdom that rejected me. I came here because you summoned me. You wanted to mock the barren reject. Instead, you've shown your entire alliance exactly what kind of king you are. I looked at Dominic, then back at the assembled crowd. I am Alpha Cynthia of Moonstone. These are my sons, Liam, Ethan, Noah, and Owen. They carry Miller blood, yes, but they carry my strength, my resilience, my honor, things you threw away. I'm placing them under the formal protection of the Iron Ridge Pack and the Alliance's law. Any attempt to harm them, claim them, or separate them from me will be considered an act of war. Dominic stepped forward immediately. Iron Ridge stands with Alpha Cynthia and her heirs. Other voices rang out, alphas who were moved by my story, or who saw political advantage, or who simply hated Michael's tyranny. Moonlight Valley recognizes the heirs. Silver Creek stands with Moonstone. The Eastern Territories acknowledge them. I turned back to Michael one final time. You invited me here to witness your true heir. So let me return the favor. Look at them, Michael. Look at what you rejected. Look at what you lost. The four boys stood tall, their golden amber eyes blazing with intelligence and power. They will grow up knowing they have a father who threw them away before they were even born. They will grow up knowing their mother was strong enough to survive what you did to her. They will grow up better than you. Because I will teach them that power without honor is nothing. That cruelty has consequences. That some things, like family, like integrity, are worth more than a crown. I took a breath. You wanted to mock me. Instead, you've given me the greatest gift. Proof that I never needed you to be extraordinary. I was extraordinary all along. Michael tried to speak, his voice hoarse. They're my sons. They're princes. They belong here. They belong with me, I said flatly. You made sure of that when you exiled their mother to die. I could claim them. By law, I could... Try it, Dominic interjects, his voice like ice. Invoke that law, and I'll invoke the law of false rejection. We'll hold a tribunal. We'll investigate the physician's false diagnosis. We'll examine Lady Ashford's involvement. We'll expose every lie that led to this moment. Is that really what you want? Victoria, desperate and vicious, made one last attempt. This changes nothing. Alexander is the acknowledged heir. He was born in wedlock. He was born second, Lord Crane said bluntly. These boys are older. If we're talking about legitimate heirs, they precede your son. Victoria looked wildly at her mother. Lady Ashford's face was calculating. She was already trying to figure out how to salvage this, how to turn it to advantage. But it was too late. The truth was out. I want 3 things, I said, my voice clear and commanding. First, formal recognition that my sons carry Miller blood and are legitimate heirs, with all the protections that entails. Second, the exile decree against me is nullified. I can travel freely in any allied territory without threat. Third, Moonstone Pack is granted formal recognition as an independent territory under the Alliance's protection. Dominic nodded. Reasonable terms. Other alphas murmured agreement. They were watching Michael, waiting to see if he was fool enough to refuse. Michael looked at his council, at the crowd, at Dominic's hard face, and finally at my unyielding gaze. He was trapped. Refusing meant open conflict with multiple packs. Refusing meant looking even weaker. Agreed, he said. The word dragged from him like pulling teeth. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not triumph exactly, but release. Closure. Then we're done here, I said simply. I turned to leave, my sons falling into step beside me. Dominic offered his arm, which I took. As I walked down the aisle toward the exit, the crowd parted again, but this time some heads bowed, some faces showed respect, some eyes held admiration. Just before I reached the door, Michael's voice rang out. Cynthia! I stopped but didn't turn. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. The hall held its breath. Slowly, I turned my head, just enough to see him over my shoulder. My expression was unreadable. "No, you're not," I said quietly. "You're sorry you were caught. You're sorry you lost. You're sorry your kingdom saw the truth. But you're not sorry for what you did to me. If you were, you never would have sent that invitation." I faced forward again. "But it doesn't matter anymore. Your apology is 6 years too late, and I don't need it." And I walked out, my head high, my sons at my side, into the afternoon sunlight. Behind me, the great hall erupted in chaos, shouting, arguments, Victoria's shrieks, Alpha's demanding explanations. But I didn't hear it. I was already gone. We've just witnessed Cynthia reclaim everything that was taken from her. But her journey isn't quite over yet. If this story of strength and justice resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the powerful conclusion. Drop a comment and let me know, would you have gone back or walked away forever? I read every single one. Epilogue, 6 months later. The cabin was bigger now. With formal recognition came resources, trade agreements, and new pack members seeking sanctuary. Moonstone was small but prosperous, known for taking in rogues and offering second chances. I stood on my porch watching my sons train in the clearing. They were almost 6 now, growing fast, their power increasing daily. Liam led them through combat drills. Ethan corrected their form. Noah negotiated who got the next turn. Owen made them all laugh when he accidentally tackled Liam into the mud. Rachel, my beta, joined me with tea. Dominic sent word. The Northern Alliance formally recognized the boys as Miller heirs. That makes 4 separate packs now. I nodded. And Michael? Struggling. Victoria's influence is waning. The Ashfords are falling out of favor. There's talk of a challenge to his leadership. Rachel paused. He's asked to visit, to meet the boys. I was quiet for a long moment, watching my sons. Not yet, I finally said. Maybe someday if they want to know him, but it will be their choice. They get to decide if he's earned that right. And you? Rachel asked gently. Have you forgiven him? I considered this. I don't think about him much anymore, I said honestly. I don't hate him. I don't love him. He's just someone who hurt me once, a long time ago. Someone I survived. I smiled, watching Owen successfully dodge Liam's tackle and do a victory dance. I'm too busy being happy to carry that weight anymore. As the sun set over Moonstone, painting everything gold, Liam called out, "Mama, come show Owen the disarming move." I laughed and set down my tea. Coming. I jogged into the clearing and my 4 sons surrounded me, chattering and laughing and pulling me into their game. This was my pack. This was my family. This was my kingdom. And it was more than enough. I had walked into that great hall seeking vindication, seeking justice, seeking proof that I was worthy. But I walked out with something far more valuable. I walked out knowing that my worth was never his to give or take away. It was always mine. The Barren reject had returned, and she had brought more than heirs. She had brought the truth. She had brought justice. She had brought herself, whole and unbroken. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. The end. Thank you for joining me on Cynthia's journey from rejection to redemption. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in second chances, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear a story about surviving the unsurvivable. And subscribe because I have more stories of strength, justice, and fierce love coming your way. Remember, your worth is never determined by those who fail to see it. Until next time, stay strong, stay fierce, and never let anyone make you feel less than extraordinary.